Morning, everyone. Happy Sunday morning. Welcome to Breakfast to Gatorchatter. Following Mississippi State. I don't know what week we're in. Um, this is a game that I had pinpointed for weeks in terms of the. Oh, and of course, I've got my speakers wrong. Excuse me for a second here. Equipment issues. Sorry. I'm assuming everyone can still hear me. This is a game I had pinpointed for weeks in terms of if something was going to happen with the coaching search, coaching situation. As obviously we're entering a bye, it's often targeted. However, the thoughts, and Jason and I had talked about this extensively, was that would Scott Strickland fire a coach after a win, any win? And our thoughts were no, it just wasn't his style. But there had been a lot of rumors that there had been a lot of pressure on the guy, boosters meeting with him. He denied it. Everyone denied it. But one thing we've learned through all these coaching searches over the last 15 years is the smoke. When there's a lot of smoke, it has turned out to be true 4 out of 5 times. So I think the smoke, and there's so much smoke today, I can barely breathe. But here we are watching this game last night, and oh gosh, 80% of the Gator Nation is kind of hoping we blow the game. They want this over with. They want Strickland's hand forced. And the game was a typical Billy Napier game. Florida led most of the game. At one point, they got up a couple of scores. Of course, they farted around with the clock at the end of the first half. Boy, this has happened, 4 or 5 times now, where they just totally screw around with no sense of urgency. This goes on and on and on. There's no reason to talk a lot about the details of the game today because I'm hoping that it's irrelevant going forward. But as usual, Mississippi State was allowed to hang around and hang around and hang around. And it looked like Florida was going to do the typical blow it at the end. As Mississippi State down 2 drove all the way down into field goal range. Now, at that point, you normally play it extremely conservatively and get your kick in. And we saw what happened. Dropped back and threw a bad pass, and a nearly 400-pound defensive lineman ends up with an interception. It was just an insanely unlikely way to end a game. And when it was over, well, when it happens, yay, the Gators win, and part of you're like, oh man. You can see in your mind Scott Strickland with this huge grin on his face, pumping his fist. You expect to see him, trailing Billy, waving to the crowd. That's what you see in your mind. And so you don't know what to think. All right, yet again, it was completely obvious where the Gators were with this head coach. I get a phone call, and at the moment it rang, I knew who it was. My father often calls me directly after games, normally with complaints about the coaching in general. But the first things he said to me, he said, "Well, I guess they found a coach even dumber than Billy." And I thought that was funny, that Mississippi State remains Mississippi State, no matter what. I don't know what they were thinking there, but they gave it back to Florida. And after the game, Billy was a little more emotional, it seemed, than usual in post-game interviews. And I guess in the post-game press conference, he was evasive. They asked him about his future, and he was evasive. He didn't answer those questions. And it certainly felt like he had already been made aware that it was over. That's the way it felt. Now, maybe that's wishful thinking, but that has been the smoke. And when I get up this morning, someone makes a thread on things that I'm sure they've heard on other sites. There's we're now in the season of scoops and clicks and rumors and sources. And the sources were that Billy's definitely gone, that Jaluk is going to be the interim coach. Now, as everyone knows, Jaluk has been suspended for the last 3 games for slapping an LSU player. And the rumor there was that he wasn't fired because Strickland wanted him to take over as the interim. Now, I think of all the assistants, he's the best one to take over as the interim. But interesting, very interesting rumor there. God only knows if it's true or not. And that, very interestingly, a search firm would be handling the coaching search, not just Strickland. Now, all these months we've been talking about this, no one has mentioned a coaching search firm. Never heard anything about it until this morning. But it's an interesting idea in that it could take some pressure off Strickland, even if it's just for show, which it might be, because I think Strickland, of course, is going to have the final say. But Strickland knows the heat is on, and maybe if he can push the pressure off to someone else, even if he's really pulling the strings behind the scenes, maybe that's what he's going for. But I can tell you, I certainly hope we get an interim. Jaluk is fine. I want to be able to pull hard for Florida the rest of the way. I'd love to upset some people. We've got the talent to do so. With Billy out of the building, who knows what could happen to our offense? We have the talent to rack up points on anybody. And boy, would I love to see it. Now, of course, the name being thrown out there is Lane Kiffin. He's sources say he's by far the number one target. And sources say that Kiffin wants to come to Florida. Kiffin made some interesting comments last week when he took a swipe at the fans, at the student section, which didn't think much about it at the time, but maybe it's his way of showing he's unhappy and that he wants out. I don't know. What I'm going to do, though, now is bring in Jason Walker, and we're going to talk about it. Morning, Jason.
Hey, go Gators. Good morning. Happy Sunday after a game day on the a game day and a Sunday afterwards. Unlike many that we've ever experienced at the University of Florida, Mr. Bland. We were treated to, like you said, not much to say about that game yesterday other than the emotions and the undercurrent of narratives that went along with it. But let's jump to a couple of things. Let's jump right to the end after the game was over. There were a number of things that were very interesting as we were after the improbable interception, as we were all bracing for a Mississippi State field goal attempt that would have potentially won the game for him. But who knows if that thing would have made it or not. They were also turtling up. But there was Austin Barber. There were a number of players hugging Billy Napier as the conclusion of this game was on. And it was really the first time I thought maybe those reports of it being over no matter what were right. In the Gatorchatter poll, I certainly voted that they would only fire him if they lost. But clearly something had indeed been communicated. There was a lot of emotion around this. The comments after the game from DJ Lagway saying, I appreciate everything that Billy Napier done. I mean, it seemed very final afterwards. And certainly Billy being so emotional after the game indicated that maybe something was up. And something needs to be up, obviously, because this is the best Billy Napier can do. A sweated out, one-score game when you need an improbable interception to seal the game. A one-score game from an unranked team in your place while you're bearing a 2-4 record just underlines that this is the best he can do as a head football coach. And it's not enough. Clearly not enough. In a game at homecoming where it's just not enough. Where penalties needed to save the head coach. Where a worse coach needed to save the head coach. more abominable clock management. Uh, in 4 years, Aaron, here we are. Still can't get the right amount of guys on the field. We want to do a 2-point attempt. That seems like something you might have thought of before. Yet, 12 men on the field. You can't get it done. Back it up, send smack out there. In there. Settle for a field goal. Well, let's make it more difficult by doing 20 yards in procedural penalties after playing it safe and making it a 50-plus yarder in there. We've all had enough of it. I think what we were seeing is that it is enough of it. So let's talk about, the coach that everybody wants in there. And I'm going to start with a statistic that isn't popular, and that's that Lane Kiffin, the presumed choice of many in Gator Nation, is 1-10 on the road at Ole Miss versus top 25 competition. He's 12-25 at Ole Miss overall against top 25, and the same as James Franklin, basically about the same. So why do we want Lane Kiffin so much? Why is it that this attractive when clearly the stats show this is not a slam dunk hire? And I would say that it is a slam dunk hire in one way. It gives Gator Nation a second chance, a second era of Steve Spurrier football. Spurrier wasn't perfect. He was excellent, and excellent in a time when the SEC had not caught up with his excellence. But he gives that same bravado. If you watch the game, Ole Miss, Georgia, watch the highlights afterwards, where he mocked the Kirby Smart clapping. And I was just clapping, in there. That's the kind of attitude that Florida football has been missing since Steve left. Well, I mean, it was a little bit with Urban, but the fans are hungering for that bravado, for that offensive juggernaut, which certainly Lane Kiffin brings, even in a loss, even in against the University of Georgia. He was able to bring that between the hedges out there. The Lane train is not perfect, but what it does, Aaron Bland, is it fits the profile of the coach that we want at the University of Florida. Steve Spurrier, too, if you will. Electric Boogaloo. We want to electric Boogaloo. We want that offensive mindset. We want a coach with swagger. And hey, maybe together, the University of Florida, the swamp, the fan base can lift Lane Kiffin up with everything that he hasn't had at Ole Miss. And maybe Lane Kiffin can break through and be there. There's no slam dunk hire out there. We went through the list. And the one encouraging thing is about that rumored search firm, because what that really does is it allows the boosters to pick the next coach under the cover of that. And it's clear we want to get back to Florida football. And Florida football, Aaron, is defined by Stephen Orr Spurrier. And that's what we want to get back to. So it makes sense. So you're going to hear a lot of stuff about records. You're going to hear stuff about what Lane hasn't done. It's what Lane has done that appeals. And I think it's okay to embrace that after 15 years, 16, the wilderness of trying to do it a different way, trying to do it with defense, trying to do it with good guys. Forget all that. Let's get a visor back on the sidelines. Let's bring Lane Kiffin in. And let's get back to Gator football.
It's, fan expectations are different than what they were 10 or 15 years ago. We've been beaten down so bad.
Yeah. It doesn't take us long. It doesn't take us long to get back to why did we lose to a top 10 team at home? It won't take us long to get back to that, but that's okay. It's okay.
Let's just get back to relevance. Why don't we start that? And whether you love Lane Kiffin or hate him, he'll bring attention to the university, and people will be noticing Florida, and that's kind of nice. You had talked about Spurrier kind of setting the tone for what Florida football should be, which is why I think that the hiring of Will Muschamp back in 2010 or 2011 was actually the worst of the hires, because he was opposite. He was the opposite of what the culture was. He was a grinded out Alabama type coach. That's really where our downfall started. And here we are. And of course, we're going to have weeks to talk about this coaching thing. There's going to be debates and all this. But Jay, here we are talking. This is still just smoke. Theoretically, Napier could be coaching the Georgia game in 2 weeks. It's impossible to imagine
Right.
that. Oh, everybody's watching breaking news now. I can't remember over the last
I've
few
got
coaches.
it up right here. Yeah.
Did we make the announcement on Sunday or Monday? Someone told me that Mullen was on Sunday. I don't remember the others. Jay, are they firing him or not? What's your take?
I was 50-50 after the game, and now I think it's 90-10. We're firing him, and we're firing him today. He's not going to coach. He's not going to coach. You got to let him go today. You can't let him coach a Georgia game. It's possible that they do fire him, but he does coach. But I'm telling you, all the hugs, all the flowers that the players were giving him, and everything that was going on, sure made it look like it was last game. Why subject Billy Napier, who's by all accounts, off the football field, a fine fella? And
well,
a culture
the
builder.
Chantings and the jeerings and
Why subject
screaming
him to
things
all
at
that?
him. He's walking
That's
off the
right.
field and people are throwing tomatoes at him. It's over.
Don't subject him to that. Let him go. Don't let him coach the rest of the year. Fine, whoever it is, Jaluk, Roberts, Gallo, whoever, right? I don't know if it really matters. Do interim coaches really matter? Sometimes they do, but I don't think that it'll matter here. Don't subject him to that. So yes, I believe they let him go. I think the vibes were so profound after the game that it was swinging me. I was a big no. I didn't think Strickland would have the guts. I think it's now very clear that it's out of Strickland's hands in there. So I expect I've got the Pete Thamel. I've got his account right here in front of me. In there, I'm watching the timelines as we go. I think a lot of people will be hitting refresh on the Gatorchatter coaching links to see something cut in there. But
it makes me excited for the rest of the season. It's a lost season. However, there's a bunch of great teams still left on the schedule. And man, I want to play spoiler. I mean, we've got the talent to beat any of these teams. I want to whack on Georgia and Tennessee and Florida State. I mean, we can have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not having to pull for Florida to lose so we can get rid of the coach. Take that off the table, and we can become lunatics fans the rest of the year. The rest of the year could be fun.
Right, because we all look, and we were saying it yesterday, and I certainly believe this. There are a lot of these players, man. I love watching play. I mean, how do you not get excited about watching, Dallas Wilson? How do you not get excited about watching somebody? And it seemed like we opened it up a little bit more yesterday, but of course, Billy Ball inevitably hit that 50-yard line. Suddenly, it gets really tight. In there. And man, that third down play at the end of the game, just, vintage Billy Napier. Vintage. Anybody that had dough on Mississippi State was laughing hysterically, thinking the money was safe with Billy there. But it is exciting to cheer for these guys. How do you not get excited about Miles Graham? And Allen had a huge game yesterday. And, there was so much talent on there, which is, of course, what makes people so hysterically angry at why Billy, one score, keep it close. Billy has this stable of talent that he brought in, and he's coaching them to this thin margin of victory. Why? Why do you do it? So, of course, yes, it would totally unlock a lot of excitement, no pressure. I mean, we'd be, Billy talked about being close to being dangerous, and everybody said it. Everybody said it. The only thing keeping us from being dangerous is Billy Napier. So you remove Billy Napier out of that, and suddenly you fulfill his promise of being a dangerous team in the conference and, of course, against our rival, Florida State, at the end of the year.
Well, you make a point there. If Billy knew that he was gone, win or lose, and he still coached that conservatively, that is sad. I mean, that's really sad.
He truly believes that's the way to win. And he's
so
probably
stubborn.
Right. He's probably right at a small school where you're under-talented, where you want to shrink the game. In there, it's one thing you can say about Lane Kiffin. He ain't shrinking any game. Very Spurrier-esque. And remember Spurrier, there were games where I was like, what is Steve doing out there? I could think of Mississippi State games, and I could remember his frustration punting on third down against them in Starkville. I can remember a lot of stuff. Even the Nebraska game that you and I watched for the national championship. Spurrier did not change. He just kept piling in, and Nebraska blew us out. There were things about Spurrier that were wrong, but what we liked about it are the same things we like about Lane Kiffin. And honestly, when you talk about the talent pool in the state of Florida, that is exactly the type of football that they excel in. Wide open, vertical, fast, sprinting around to the ball. Lane Kiffin coached in Tennessee. He had access to top talent. He coached at FA. He had access to Florida talent in there. But he's never had the University of Florida as a tailwind for what he does. So surely we'd see the mistakes, but man, we were so desperate to get back to our identity, the identity that Spurrier created for us and that we were so good at. We don't want another Doug Dickey in here. We want Ray Graves. We want Steve Spurrier. We want Lane Kiffin.
Jason, for 18 years, Lane Kiffin has been a punching bag for Florida and its fans. We laughed at him. We made memes about him at Tennessee.
Right.
Then he went to USC. He got fired on the tarmac. We thought that was the most hilarious thing we've ever seen. Well, he was a joke. And here we are, and it is what it is. But it's been said that Strickland has never liked Lane Kiffin. Right. So if we hire Lane Kiffin, that's going to be the proof is in the pudding that Strickland did not make the call, because I do not think he would make the call on his own.
I think the fact that we're hearing rumors about a search firm and things of that nature tell you the story, because he's made all the other hires himself. So this would indicate that they're going to do something that they believe that Strickland wouldn't do. And Strickland likes that paycheck he gets. He also likes not having any pushback. So now that he's getting pushback from the people that matter, money, again, that's all speculation and rumor, but it tracks with where we are as a football program, that you could see it happening, and it would indicate that, fine, do it your way out there, and bringing him in. But you talk about Kiffin being a punching bag. His time at Alabama definitely shifted a lot of. We were hoping he would bury Nick Saban, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen. In fact, his genius was revealed even more, and we started seeing signs of maturing. But hey, people could say, well, you guys used to mock Lane Kiffin. Now you want him as your coach. You're so desperate. First of all, Kiffin started it. He started it. He poked us, and Urban Meyer wasn't having it. And he shoved it right back in Lane's face. That's Gator. But I think we always enjoyed that he was taking shots at us. That's why we enjoyed winning the battle ultimately when he walked out of Tennessee, when he got fired from USC, when he desperately had to take a coordinator role in the SEC. We liked it because it humbled him. You tried to come at us, brash man, but you needed to grow up.
Well,
in some ways, you could say Billy Napier needs to grow up. He needs to grow up and let go of some of that. Maybe he will, and realize his full potential as a head coach, not an offensive coordinator. I hope that for Billy Napier.
I would imagine he'd return to a small school again, which is where he belongs.
That's where he belongs.
They'll probably let him have all the power he wants there, which is fine. Oh, but Jay, there's going to be
good men, grow individuals, build a culture. The things that he was good at here, but not on the field. It's just his type of football. This type of football doesn't lend itself to success at this level, and certainly not at this school.
There's going to be a lot of openings. Clemson lost yesterday at home. Dabo's been there a long time. He's been complaining all year about how he's been treated, which is what he does. I think that my prediction is that they're going to come up with a mutual parting at the end of the year. That's my prediction there.
Yeah.
He's going to be out there, and Clemson's going to have an opening. Another pretty good job. Also,
Yeah.
Florida State
Pretty good.
lost last night. Florida State was a 17.5-point favorite,
I hope he took
and they
Stanford.
lost to a terrible Stanford team. They have now lost 18 of their last 20 FBS games, 18 of 20. And of course, if they had to play Alabama again, we know what would happen now. I don't see how they can justify keeping Norvell. I don't care what the buyout is. They'll come up with the 60 million or whatever. I think he's gone. I don't think they can move on with him, and that's going to be another opening. Any thoughts?
Well, I think State's really had trouble hiring, much like we have as well. I don't know. I mean, unlike Napier, Norvell's had a modicum of success over there, and he's liked. I don't know that State is going to be able to. I don't know. They certainly have the. I think they have the. It's a good time, He's not good. They're not good consistently, and he has not shown any ability to build a roster in there. So, I mean, I could see it, but I don't think it's not as likely as Dabo at Clemson, Napier at Florida, stuff like that. But it's interesting. Dabo, people said, "What about Dabo?" He's won a couple championship. I think Dabo, much like Napier, is a victim of modern college football. It happened so fast, and I definitely don't want a whiny jerk, as a head coach. That's not what we're talking about in here. So while he's successful and he'll get another job somewhere, I do agree that that's the end of the road. I don't know. I could see State finishing the year with Norvell. Maybe an embarrassing loss to a coachless Florida Gator team will put the final nail in his coffin.
I think we're gonna beat them at the swamp like drums, is what I think.
Yeah.
Um, and but that hire obviously is relevant to us, very very
Yeah.
relevant. I don't. We'd love for them to keep Norvell. I really would, but I
Right.
know
As
some
much.
Florida State people that are some higher ups, believe it or not, and they are beside themselves. This is
Sure.
18 of 20. 18 of 20.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree with you. The buyout, I know we make a lot about the buyout and how money poor State is. That's another one of our favorite things to hang a hat on. Little brother in Tallahassee doesn't have as much money as we have in there, but they'll always find it. They always seem to. They had the money to get rid of Taggart. They found the money. Yeah, they'll be on the hook for quite a bit, but the money's there. I think that there are enough people that liked Mike to get him through the times. And I think that's why he'll finish the season. But let's bring it in. Thing they're a competitor for head coaches. Would they be able to lure Kiffin over there? I think we, of course, biased, but being the University of Florida, being the school of Steve Spurrier, and clearly showing that we can out recruit with the logo over their logo. I think that I don't think they have a chance at getting that. But what an ultimate heel move it would be for Kiffin if he waited and took a Florida State job over the University of Florida. Huge move in troll land for sure. But I don't.
Kiffin loves Spurrier. I mean, I think Kiffin only wears the visor because of Spurrier. Hasn't he
That's
said
what he
that
said.
before?
Yep, that's what he said.
Uh, I I I can't see that happening. But I mean that is irrelevant. That's something as Gator fans we have to keep an eye on. We don't want them to get some dynamo in there.
Well,
Um,
right. Yeah,
so
and I know we talked about Deion Sanders and stuff, but we don't want to turn this into who the Knowles going to hire. But I don't think that there's any. But do we really think they got lucky with Bobby Bowden? They did. They were a ladies' school. My grandfather used to talk about the girls' school. And Bobby did an amazing job. Aw shucks, with the boys would be boys. He built that sucker, and Jimbo wrote it out. But I don't. Is there any They just don't frighten me as a program like they did when Bobby was there.
Yeah, it's just it's a totally different era now. We need a different kind of coach for a different kind of era. And you said that
That's right.
Davo might be one of those old school guys.
Yeah.
Um, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But Jay, we're going to have weeks and weeks and weeks because if we want to coach, if we want a playoff coach, these guys are going to be coaching for a while, and Ole Miss is likely going to
Right.
be in the playoff.
Right.
So I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to have to wait a while, and there's going to be speculation and rumors
The
up the
search
yin.
firm, yeah. The search firm's gonna take their time, really evaluating all the options as they flip through glossies of Lane Kiffin.
So first things first, let's fire Billy. Um,
Yeah,
so Jay, thank you for all your thoughts, and hopefully there's a thread later today on Gatorchatter. Come to Gatorchatter, and we can talk about how happy we were. Free. We can run into the streets and celebrate after we get the news. So, Jason, thank you. Well, there's a bye next week. So we'll be back for Georgia for sure. Now, maybe if something crazy happens, we could meet before then. Who knows? So,
that's right.
um, thanks very much for your thoughts, man. Have a good one. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for sitting through another one of these. Could be a very interesting day. I'm hoping within the next hour or two, there's an announcement that there is a press conference. Someone in the know actually told me that some UF administrators and such were being asked to work today when they normally would not. I did hear that. I don't know if that's breaking news or not, but that tells you there might be something going on with a press conference or something like that. But thanks, everybody. Come to Gator Chatter if you want news. And if you like this video, give us a like and a subscribe, etc., so we can be encouraged to keep doing these. Thanks, everybody. Go Gators. Have a great week. And it's a fun time. Coaching searches are fun. So come join us on Gator Chatter. Thanks.